Welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to be taking a look at Community Report 45 for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. This was released on the 20th of February 2022. This report is an update on the progress of the water and sewage update, which should be due fairly soon. But more importantly, it talks about a new city planning tool, which I'm really like. But I'm not going to go into too much detail. What I'll do is I'll let the devs have their say. Greetings, dear comrades of the Soviet Republic. As we are closing to the end of this winter season, we are closer and closer to another content update for the game. Our focus during the past weeks was fully on things connected to water and sewage. There are quite a few issues we need to deal with, and we want to make the game better for you, because there are lots of things you need to consider while planning and building up your wonderful republics. Now, I'm not going to look at all the pictures. I'm just going to go and read the next paragraph. Because of this, we want to introduce the new City Planning tab. It will be available in overlays, and it will be useful while planning your residential areas. Thanks to this feature, you'll be able to see how you are doing with coverage of facilities that provide satisfaction of needs for your citizens, and you will be able to see how access to different goods, educations and services is, and how it is the connection to different networks like power, water and sewage. Now, this looks like a really substantial quality of life improvement. So what I'm going to do now is we'll just go through each individual picture and see if we can get a feel for how this city planner is going to work. So it looks like this first one is for food. In fact, let's just look at the filters. So I'm assuming that we've still got the normal overlay here. So because what I'm not seeing on this in this picture is the quantities in the individual stores. So this looks like this is more of a supply overview rather than the detail that we've had before. And you can see what we've got in the filters. We've got citizens' access to goods, citizens' access to services, citizens' access to education, building networks and connections. I'm presuming the blue drop is water and the black circle is sewage. And this map is actually highlighting food. And what we've got is the food icon over where I'm guessing that the shops or maybe a restaurant that supplies food. Then all the buildings are green to possibly indicate that this is where people consume food. Quite interesting, the car parks are green. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Now there's a building in the center here that's not highlighted at all. So I'm assuming that that is unpopulated, but I could be wrong. What I'm gathering from this city is that it's got excellent coverage. And one vibe I am getting from this city planner is that it's actually highlighting all the individual buildings, and also providing the names. So if you want to find all the shops in a city, that would be quite useful. Let's just move down and look at the next one. Now this one is clothes. And of course it looks very similar to the food one, because obviously clothes and food come from the same shop. I'm not seeing any problems, but this is a pretty well built city. In fact, it's quite awesome actually. And then we're just moved down to the next one. Just make sure we can find it. There's quite a lot of pictures. And what we got here is alcohol. There's quite a lot of pubs in this town. And we can see again, it's all green across the board. But I'm assuming that if there was a problem with supply, some of these buildings would go yellow or red. But we can see again, we've got the pub down in this area here. I always have problems finding pubs, so being able to go to a tab and say, show me all the pubs in this town or city, it will be really useful. Quite like all the fact that all the pipelines here. A little bit of traffic on the bottom road down there though. And then we'll just go look at the power one, and then we'll move down and read the next paragraph. So we'll just look at the power one. Now this is very useful because while it highlights all the substations, and I have to admit, trying to find all the substations is often quite a pain, because I often find they're tucked under buildings and you can't see them. But more importantly, one of the problems I get with in really large cities is when you put in substations, and then you get a little bit of a dead zone, because obviously these substations are kind of circles, and the only way you can kind of check at the moment is to go find the substation and then see whether all the buildings connected, or alternatively click on every building and say, does it have power? But what this will do is highlight any buildings that for some reason have slipped through and have no power. So from my perspective, this is probably even more useful than the food and clothes overlay, and especially from the respect of finding power stations and substations, because some of them can be really small, especially if you use some of the modded ones. Yeah, I'm really liking this, and this is brilliant. The only main concern I've got is, we go back to the food one at the top, is that we don't get the amount of food inside the shops anymore. And I'm looking at the tabs up here, wondering whether they've actually removed a tab rather than added a tab. Because I mean, if we've got to go through and check all the shops individually for how much food they got, might be a bit of a pain. So we'll just go down to this paragraph here. Of course, we also updated other tabs in overlays, adding water sewage features to help you see how much water flows through the water distribution network and your sewage network. You will be able to see how high the consumption of water is, like you can see with power consumption. So this is more of an upgrade to the normal overlays that we've already got. So I'm guessing that because the black dot is highlighted, this is, yeah, it's down here. Montbank sewage discharge. So the black symbol, so the black circle indicates the actual discharge, and you can see sewage discharge per day 109.8 cubic meters. And I'm not sure if you guys can see it, because against the dark background there are a couple of pipes here that are not truly green, they're slightly yellow, and there's so it looks very much like this is the way the sewage flows. And quite, I mean, the only thing I would say is this doesn't give a direction of flow, but I'm assuming that you could guess that the flow would be in the direction of a sewage outfall. And what's also interesting, it looks like there might be 3 outfalls from this. It's also the fact they're also interconnected. So it looks like we could build up some very complex sewage disposal systems. Going down to the next one. Wow. This is going to be pretty interesting. I'm guessing that this is the water. We can see we've actually got a fairly overloaded pipe coming in from the right hand side, and one that's going out that way. So I think this is a bit of a strange water supply, because it looks like you've got water coming in. Again, we can't see the direction of flow, but I could assume that once you know your map, you'll be able to gauge it. And I think all these little green dots are actually the individual buildings and how much water they're consuming. So I'm assuming it's going to work in a similar way to the way heating is displayed on the map. I think it might be a bit tricky to work out which ones are the supply ones, but I'm guessing that the one where it says 113.65 cubic meters there is actually a distribution point. So it looks very much like the electric water system is going to work the same way as the electrical supply, that you're going to have nodes which will have a range to the buildings around them. So it would be necessary to build up the water supply that way. Interesting. I'm just going to go down to the final chapter. We are slowly coming closer to finish the water distribution system. We dealt with power consumption recently and worked out the effects of pollution on water distribution. As we mentioned in previous reports, the cleaner the area around the water source will be, the cleaner the water will be, and less treatment will be required for safely drinkable. The player will be able to decide if he wants to dump sewage water directly into the river or cause high pollution, or he will run it through sewage treatment to clean it up a bit to create lower pollution as caused by dumped water. So this picture here, I think it's actually a split screen. So this is the underground view showing the pipes coming in, and then this is the above ground view with the pollution. Now, my big question with this is whether the pollution would build up and stay, or whether it would move as it does in city skylines. Now, I'm not particularly that worried if it stays, as long as it doesn't keep building and spreading, because one of the possible problems is you can see the pollution goes up on land. So if you've got a sewage outfall and you've got, say, properties nearby, that pollution would have an indirect effect rather than just on the water. And the other potential problems if it actually spreads via the water. So hopefully the devs will be looking at that. But beyond that, it's looking good. So I think one of the downsides with this new update, it will be the fact that maps that don't have much water on them could be interesting to build on, especially if you're starting on the edge of the map and the nearest water disposal site could be a halfway across the map is a possible issue. But then again, given the sheer amount of creativity in the modding community, I'm sure somebody will come up with another way to deal with the sewage. It's probably the polite way of going. Of course, what we got here is a nice picture of a sewage outfall, which I think you will use as the thumbnail. And let's just do the outro. We hope that all of you are excited to see these new features and learn to use them. We believe these will add more options for difficulty, making the game more challenging, but also offer you some improvement for your planning process. Just remember, we are a bit late with the crime and justice update, and thus we may be a small delay in the release of this update. Even the roadmap shows that this month was our main deadline. It's only 1 week left before February ends, and we will continue to do our best to prepare the update for internal testing, so please be patient, as we do not want your republics to collapse releasing it prematurely. Until then, may your crime rate stay low and your workers' productivity happy, and you're satisfied not only while playing the game but also in the real life. Stay tuned for the next report. I am really interested in this overlay, and I'll be honest, even if the new update comes out and it's not 100%, because once you've got a tool like this into the game, I'm sure it can be refined and changed over time to provide more information as and when there is a need established. And it looks like very much we could be looking at a possible beta access to this next update somewhere in March, because it looks like the devs are making good progress. Now, my only reservation, as I've already mentioned, is other options for disposing of sewage water, simply because of the restrictions of having to run long pipelines to a water source to dump it. But that's something I'm sure that can be fixed in the long term. This is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.